Good afternoon, students. Today our topic is inheritance in C++. Inheritance means getting or obtaining the features from one class to another class. Okay, so we are going to be getting the features from one class to another class. Features are nothing but data members and member functions of a class. Class is nothing but it is a collection of data members and member functions. Now we are going to be getting those data members and member functions of a class to another class. Data members and member functions of one class to another class, that is called as a inheritance. Okay, here the mechanism by which one class gets the properties of another class. Okay, so one class that is going to be getting the features from another class. Okay, here the class which is giving the properties to another class, that class is called as a base class, a parent class or super class. Okay, the class which is taking the features from another class, that class is called as a derived class, subclass, child class. Okay, so here inheritance is a meaningful way to relate two or more classes. Okay, it is used to establish a relationship between the two or more classes. Okay, here the inheritance implements and is a relationship. Okay, so for example, here a dog is an animal. Okay, a mango is a fruit, like that. That means here it implements is a relationship. Okay, so this is the inheritance. Okay, here also we have some of the topic related inheritance. Okay, here inheritance, let us create new classes from the existing classes. Okay, so we are going to be creating a new classes from the existing classes. For that purpose we are using this inheritance concept. Okay, the new classes that we create from the existing classes are called as a derived classes. Okay, the class which is going to be created, okay, by obtaining the features from another class, that class is called as a derived classes. It is also called as subclasses. Okay, the existing classes are also called as a base classes. It is also called as a super class. Okay, the derived classes inherit the properties of the base classes. Okay, that means in a base class that can have only those base class features. Okay, one class is there, the class that is called as a base class. That means that class gives the features to some other class. That's why that class is called as a base class. The base class that can have only that base class features. Okay, that cannot have the derived class features. But coming to the derived class, what is the derived class? The class which is taking the properties from base class, that is called as a derived class. That means the derived class that can have the properties of base class as well as the derived class. Okay, so each derived class in turn becomes a base class for a future derived classes. Okay, so here we call as a base class. Why it is base class? Why means this class is giving the properties to some other class. Okay, here the class which is taking the properties from the base class, that class is called as a derived class. So that derived class also in some times that can be called as a base class. Why? Because this derived class also maybe it gives the properties to some other class. Okay, so next one, a derived class can redefine the member functions of a base class, but this redefinition applies only to the objects of the derived class. Okay, that means in base class we may declare the functions in the base class. That function redefinition, that means the declaration that can be done in the derived class. Okay, that definition that can be done in the derived class, and those functions definition, that means only those functions that can be accessed with the object of derived class. Okay, so here we have two classes, one is base class and one is derived class. Okay, so base class can have some features and derived class also can have some features. Okay, so here if you create the object of base class, we can only access the base class features. Okay, so when we create the object of derived class, we access the properties of base class as well as derived class also. Okay, that's why we have to create the object of bottommost derived class. Through the bottommost derived class object, through that object we have to access, we can access all the data members and member functions of those classes. Okay, so next it is here inheritance hierarchical. Here we have vehicle and motorized vehicle, and here it have bicycle and motorized. Under the motorized vehicle we have car and truck. Okay, so here vehicle is a base class, right? So here vehicle is a base class. From the base class we have two derived classes. What are the derived classes we have? One is bicycle and another one is motorized vehicle. Okay, so under the motorized vehicle we have two types, car and truck. Okay, here car and truck, two sub derived classes of which class ma? Motorized class. Let us assume vehicle is one class, motorized is another class. So here car class and truck, these are also two classes. These two classes are the derived class of which class ma? Motorized vehicle class. Okay, this motorized vehicle is also derived class of which class? Vehicle class. It is motorized vehicle, it is derived from which class? Vehicle class. Okay, here motorized vehicle act as a derived class as well as base class. If you take vehicle and motorized vehicle, in that case vehicle is a base class, motorized vehicle is a derived class. Coming to the motorized vehicle and car, truck. Okay, this car and truck, these are the two classes that can be derived from motorized vehicle class. In this case motorized vehicle act as a base class. Okay, so here it is left side, it is a bicycle. This bicycle is a class, it can be derived from vehicle class. Okay, so this is a hierarchical of inheritance. That means vehicle class that can have only the vehicle class features. Coming to the motorized vehicle, it can have vehicle class features as well as motorized vehicle class features. Coming to the car and truck, car that can have car class features as well as motorized vehicle class features as well as vehicle class features also. Coming to the truck also, it can have truck class features, motorized vehicle class features as well as vehicle class features also. Okay, coming to the bicycle, it can have bicycle class features as well as vehicle class features. Okay, so this is the hierarchical of inheritance. Okay, so next one is advantages of inheritance. Okay, let us discuss here advantages. Okay, first one is you can reuse the methods and data of existing class. Okay, so we have two classes na, parent class and derived class. Parent class and child class, or base class or derived class. Okay, so base class, it is one class. This class is existing class. Okay, in that class we have some methods and some data members. Okay, so we have another class that is called as a derived class. In the derived class we are going to be reuse the features, reuse the methods of base class na. So that is one advantage. That means in base class we have methods, that means functions. Okay, in the derived class we are going to be use that methods here. So that is the reuse. Okay, so that is the reuse of methods from one class to another class. Okay, so second one is you can extend the existing class by adding new data and new methods. Okay, so second one, you can extend the existing class by adding the new data and new method. That means, so in new class that can have only the in base class that can have only the base class features na. So coming to the derived class, this derived class that extend the features of base class to the derived class. That means this derived class, this can have base class features as well as derived class features. Okay, so third one is you can modify the existing class by overloading its methods with your own implementation. Okay, so we have some methods in base class na. Okay, so in the derived class, from the derived class we are, whenever we overload the methods of the existing class, we can you can implement those methods in the derived class. Okay, you have some methods in the base class. Okay, coming to the derived class, through the derived class, okay, we are going to be modify the existing features of that method in that base class. Okay, so you also modify the features. Okay, so these are the advantages of inheritance. Okay, so next the syntax of the inheritance here. So class is a keyword that can be written in only small case letters. Here next D class ID, this is the derived class. Okay, D class ID is the derived class. Next we have colon means extends, the derived class extends. Okay, next access ID, that means access modifiers. Okay, access modifiers. Next B class ID, that means base class ID. Okay, here D class ID is the new class and the B class ID is the old class. In that we have D class methods list. Okay, so here this D class, that means this is the derived class. Okay, this new class is the derived class that can be existed. Okay, that can derive from which class? Ma old class, that is called as a B class ID, that means base class. Okay, so this is about the syntax of inheritance. Okay, so next public, protected and private. Okay, when we use this public, okay, public, protected and private data members. Okay, for example, if you declared a data member as private, okay, if you declared a data member as a private, that means that data members that can be used only within the class, those data members that cannot be used outside of the class. Okay, so here as a public, if a data member that can be declared as a public, it can be accessed by any other part of our program. Okay, if a data member that can be declared as a private, the data member that can be used anywhere in our program. Okay, for example, next, if a data member that can be declared as a private, that means that data members that can be used only within the class, that cannot be used outside of the class. Okay, that is called as a private. Okay, so for example, if a variable that can be declared as a protected, that means protected variables that can be accessed within the class as well as derived class of that class. Only these two classes we are going to be access those private protected data members within the class as well as derived class of that class. Okay, so that is called as a protected. Okay, so here we are using this public, private and protected data members in our classes. Okay, so next inheritance and accessibility. Okay, see here access identifier, that means public, protected, private. Okay, accessible, that means accessible from own class. Public means own class, public data members that can be accessed to own class and derived class of the class, and access outside of the class also we can access the public data members. Coming to the protected, within access only within the class, access within the class as well as derived class of the class, but not accessed outside of the class. Okay, that's why yes, no. Next, private. If a variable declared as a private, that can be accessible only within the class, that means outside of the class is not accessible and derived class of the class also not accessible. That's why yes, no, no. Okay, this is the inheritance and accessibility. Okay, so next public and private inheritance. Okay, if a class is derived from another class as publicly, that means how we are going to be access the features from base class to derived class. Let us see here. So when a base class is inherited by using the private access specifier, that means derived class is publicly derived from the base class. Derived class is derived from privately from the base class. In that case, so all the public and protected members of base class becomes private members in the derived class. Okay, so we have a base class now, we have a derived class. Okay, from the derived class we are going to be derived the base class through the private access modifier. Okay, in that case what are the public and protected data members that can be available in base class, those becomes private in the derived class. Okay, when the base class is inherited by using the private access modifier. Okay, so coming to the second one, when the access specifier when the access specifier for a base class is public, base class, that means derived class is publicly inherited the base class. So that means all the public members of base class becomes public members of the derived class, and all the protected members of base class protected members in the derived class. Okay, so whenever the derived class is that can be derived from the publicly derived from the base class, in that case all the public data members and protected data members of base class, again those same public and protected data members in the derived class also. Okay, so that is so next one is when the access specifiers for a base class is protected, that means derived class that can be derived protectedly derived from the base class. In that case all public and protected members of base class becomes protected members of derived class. Okay, so whenever the derived class that can be protectedly derived from the base class, in that case what are the public and protected data members of base class that can be protected in the base class? Public that can be act as a protected in the derived class, protected as that can be act as protected in the derived class. Okay, so this is about the public and private inheritance here, public and private and protected inheritance. Okay, okay ma, thank you.